I knew when I came to the University of Maine as a forestry student in 1963 that I had an interest in fire, but I thought fire was all about putting out fires. I have memories from my childhood in the Boston area of a great fire in 1957 in Plymouth that I used to drive through the scout camp, and it looked like a Smokey the Bear advertisement. So I came up here thinking I would learn forestry and spend my career in a fire tower. And then I ran into Bob Frank with the Forest Service, and when I met Bob, he told me about this experiment that they were doing out here. But in the spring of 1966, he brought me out, and it looked pretty much like this. They had just cut these strips. They had burned in 1965, and I knew nothing about doing any kind of research, so I took some soil samples, learned how to process samples for pH change. The pH change was dramatic, went from 7 down to 3. The data that I collected were nowhere near as good, and I am embarrassed sometimes by the mistakes I made, but that's part of learning. So I actually redid the experiment using red pine and jack pine for a master's thesis in Minnesota, and really by that time I was sort of rolling down the hill towards a career in fire ecology. And when I returned to the area with Bethany last spring and we came out, I found the location here. I was able to document as the same area that I took the soil blocks from by finding charcoal in the soil and not in other areas around here which had not been burned in 1965. I was impressed that it pretty much looked like I think I remember it as 1965. It hadn't been burned yet. What I see now is totally different than what I saw last spring. The area in the foreground here was burned. It was clearly burned severely. The drought index was very high, 500 last fall. I would have expected a severe burn. I'm not sure that I would have expected that, at least for now, and it's very early in the growing season, all of the deciduous species are not sprouting well compared to what's in the background, where the aspen is 6 feet tall. All of this green that you see amid the black, very low green, is a geranium that only comes in after fire and regenerates from seeds that in this case had to have been in the soil since 1965 when it last flowered on this site, or even before, because it's a species that has very tiny seeds. They're not spread by wind, they're not spread by animals in any way effectively, and we know from seed banking studies that it can persist in the soil for decades. And from an ecological standpoint, that's fascinating to me.